Hulk Hogan versus Sid Justice in what could possibly be Hulk Hogan's final match. And also Macho Man Randy Savage taking on Ric Flair for the WWE Championship. Yada, yada, yada. But still, Hulk Hogan's last WWE match. Ha ha, it's such good shit, pal. I'm John Renton with a retro view of WWE WrestleMania 8 at the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, Indiana. Indiana wants me to review this show, apparently. No, not just Indiana, but other people asked me to review this, and why not? Why not look back on an event nearly 30 years ago and talk about a WrestleMania that certainly had the components to be great, and it wasn't. It really wasn't at all. There were some good matches. There was actually like one particular match that still stands out to this very day, and a very good WWE Championship match. And also Vince McMahon's over-the-top announcement of Hulk Hogan! Ha ha ha! Man, I really miss when Vince was able to do that stuff. You know, coked out Vince was best Vince. I actually don't know if he was coked out. He just had so much more energy back then. If he tried to do that intro for WrestleMania 38, he might actually have an aneurysm on camera. So yeah, what do you guys think of this Mania? Let me know in the comments, please. Because, again, there were good elements to this show, but something didn't quite work. Maybe it was the fact that it was in the Indianapolis Hoosier Dome, and there was just something amiss. Maybe it's also the fact that this is the last of the golden era of WWE, like as far as the last WrestleMania, because let's take a look at WrestleMania 9, and let's, remind ourselves that WrestleMania 9 was absolute goddamn dog shit. It was barely qualified for an episode of Raw, based on all the bullshit that happened. There were actually a couple decent matches, but this is about WrestleMania 8. So, yeah, Vince's just over-the-top intros were just tremendous and over-the-top and absolutely insane. Monsoon and Heenan welcoming us. I really miss Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon. I mean, obviously, even if their health had held up and they had wanted to be involved in wrestling, they wouldn't be calling a WrestleMania now, but it's just really sad that this is the only full WrestleMania they called. Because Heenan joined for, Heenan joined for, most of Mania 7, but he was also out there for, I think one of the matches, and Duggan had to call the first match with Monsoon. But just Heenan and Monsoon, just my favorite commentary duo of all time. Monsoon and Ventura were very, very good. Lawler and JR, of course, they speak for themselves as far as their body of work, but to me, Monsoon and Heenan will always be my favorite. Now, I will say that there are some lines in this show, both backstage and on commentary, that maybe haven't aged all that well, some nearly 30 years later. But Reba McEntire does America the Beautiful. Reba kind of looks the same now, just with less hair. I would, and you would too. I did kind of like how Heenan immediately said when Tito Santana was making his entrance, boy, Tito's sister, can really belt one out, can't she? That's a Reba McEntire, right? Because Heenan can get away with that shit. He just could, because he's Bobby Heenan. So, what's that? The black guy with the glasses that's in great shape, the bald guy. He's always there in the crowd, the super fan, Vladimir, I think is his name. He was here. He was at WrestleMania 10. He was at a bunch of WCW shows. He's been at so many other WWE shows. That guy, his dedication to be at those shows and just be obviously smart with his money to be able to go to all these shows. My fucking goodness, that guy's energy is infectious. Why hasn't WWE released a documentary that they apparently did on him? I would like to actually hear from the guy, because to just hear how he did this. But yeah, you know the guy I'm talking about. I really could have just said the guy with glasses and, a shaved head and everything. The black guy that was just always enthusiastic and always in shape and everything. I really didn't even have to say his name. And I didn't even know his name for the longest time. But he was third or fourth row back on the camera side, and you could just tell he's all thrilled. So the dark match, by the way, with the Bushwhackers taking on the Beverly Brothers with the Genius. Okay, so Shawn Michaels with Sherry, sensational Sherry, against El Matador, Tito Santana. I can't imagine why Tito Santana left the company about a year after this. He was actually involved in the first 9 WrestleManias, but you would be remiss if you didn't know that, because he wasn't actually on the official card for Mania 9. He took on Papa Shango. Why that wasn't on the main card, I don't know, because it would have been kind of cool for Tito Santana to have that accolade of being at the first 9 straight WrestleManias. Except then again, given the state of WrestleMania 9, maybe he was happy just being the dark match for that. Commentary mentions how traffic was the reason that the venue wasn't quite filled out yet. Apparently there was a ticket flummox, and there was a lot of issues as far as traffic, so people were filing in late, and it 62,167 fans, and considering that Mania 6 was in the let me try that again in English, the Sky Dome in Toronto. It wasn't the Superdome, wasn't the Silverdome. Good to be back here in the Superdome. But in all seriousness, in the Silverdome, man, they really nailed Hogan right there. I will dig myself out of this one way or another. But they were in the Sky Dome. They were supposed to be in the LA Coliseum, but they weren't. They were in the LA Sports Arena for Mania 7, and they wouldn't have sold that thing out. That thing might have had maybe 40,000 people, which would have not been good because, let's be honest, Vince McMahon overestimated people wanting to see Hulk Hogan take down the dastardly heel Sgt. Slaughter while a real-life war was going on. So they went to the Hoosier Dome. It was also the last stadium show until WrestleMania 17, which was probably smart because they entered a bit of a down period, even though Manias, by and large, still had pretty good crowds. Mania 14, Mania 15, okay, maybe Mania 15 is a bad example. 16 was the last one in a smaller venue until 17, then there was 18, then there was 19. 20, they were back in MSG. 21, they did actually go to the Staples Center. 22, they were in Chicago. And from there, they've been in stadiums. They should not be in open-air stadiums during winter time, or late winter, early springtime, especially with all the weather, the cold weather and all that shit. Let's stop talking about weather and talk about this match. It was fine. Tito helped establish Shawn as a more dastardly heel here, and Tito Santana could work with anybody. The flying jalapeno is what Heenan called his flying forearm, and Shawn kept rolling to the outside when it looked like Tito had the victory, and then he got his hand on the rope and pulled back enough to where Tito got Shawn on top of him, and Shawn ended up covering him, rolling the tights 1, 2, 3. So Shawn gets a victory. Tito obviously being upset, but he did the job, and it was a good win for Shawn in this new heel persona. So LOD are on the stage with Mean Gene. They have Paul Ellering with them. How they will win back the tag titles. The band is back together. This didn't last very long because right after SummerSlam 92, that was it. And because they got Rocco, the dummy's driving the bike. Paul Ellering's one of the best talkers. I mean, he wasn't a bad worker, what little bit I've seen of his work. But he's most known for being a manager because he destroyed one of his knees really badly. This would have been fine, but unfortunately at this point, Hawk was having his issues and they were very well known. And LOD would be out of the company by, again, SummerSlam in 92, when Hawk would basically vanish. Animal would suffer the back injury, and all that stuff is told in the Dark Side of the Ring episode for the Road Warriors. Jake Roberts talks about how you will take down Undertaker. Undertake down Taker. Well, could have tried harder with that. Taker takes on Jake Roberts in a match for Jake's last WWE match for almost 4 years. He negotiated his release, was going to sign with WCW for about $2 to $3 million, and then that got torn up when Bill Watts took over 3 days before his non-compete clause was up, Jake Roberts's, and he went down to making about $250,000 because of personal heat. Can't imagine Jake Roberts burning his bridges and annoying people. Can't imagine that at all. I know he's clean now, but still. And Bill Watts, bit of a angry son of a bitch, shall we say. The match was fine. Jake did the job. There were a couple DDTs, but Jake kept, celebrating, not dancing to the music, because it'd be hard to dance to his theme. And he got tombstoned outside, and then rolled in 1, 2, 3. So there you go. That was about. There wasn't a lot to some of these matches until we get to the next one. Piper and Bret doing a back and forth and everything before the IC title match. I understand that Bret gave the ticket taking at the Hoosier Dome a 4 out of 10. And we get Roddy Piper against Bret Hart for the Intercontinental Championship. Bret had lost it to the Mountie because he was possibly going to go to WCW, then found out he couldn't because he couldn't get out of his contract. And imagine if Bret had gone to WCW in October of 92. He wouldn't have made nearly as much money, even though Turner had quite a bit of money because of, all the stuff going on there. And Bret being in WCW, working with some people, working with Steve Austin at that point, Brian Pillman and others. And Steamboat might have been good, but he did so much better staying in WWE. Rowdy Piper, of course. Roddy Piper. I mean, Roddy Piper, however you want to call him. The rowdy one. the man from They Live in Hell Comes to Frogtown. He was the Intercontinental Champion. He had beaten the Mountie, Jimmy Do Something, at the Royal Rumble and faced off against Bret in a classic match. One of my favorites. Would Piper be more heelish? He was more heelish. They passed off a blade job as a hard way because he punched him. And Bret told this in shoot interviews, that Piper felt the color would add a little bit more to the match, and it did. We do get a ref bump. Piper gets the bell, and Heenan says, you know what they say, what the hell, use the bell. He doesn't. He gets a sleeper hold on. But Bret does the thing where he he gets on the turnbuckles and pushes back. 1, 2, 3, new Intercontinental Champion. So he pinned Piper's shoulders to the mat. That shows how much Piper respected Bret to be willing to lay down for him, because Piper didn't like to lay down for really anybody. Don't blame him necessarily. Like, he didn't want to lay down for Hogan. Why would you? Because Hogan was kind of a notorious piece of shit. Randy Savage, always better than Hogan. Piper, always better than Hogan. Bret, miles better than Hulk Hogan. But to show respect afterwards, in all seriousness, Piper versus Bret Hart, one of the best WrestleMania matches of all time. I would argue it's up there. If it's not the best Intercontinental Championship Mania match, it might not be as memorable as the latter match that took place at Mania 10 2 years later, but it, to me, is really fucking memorable. And if you want to know what I thought of the Mania 10 ladder match, check out my retro review of that. I'm going to do some retro reviews of Manias, but it's gotten to the point now where all I will have to do of like the older ones in this is do 4 and 5, because I'm going to redo those, because I did them like a few years ago and it didn't turn out quite as well as I thought, because I doubled them up with the Clash of Champions. So if I do those, then all I'm going to have is like, I think I think I did 15. If I haven't done 15, get ready for me to retro review 15 like crazy. And if I did, check it out on the channel. I got a lot of these things to review though, but then it's going to get into more of the modern times. And let's be honest, the older Manias, it's always nice to revisit and see how well these things turn out. He and Monsoon interviewed the new the new World Bodybuilding Federation signee, Lex Luger, who was never good at promos at all. I don't know why they thought this should be on pay-per-view. The reason that Luger was signed to a World Bodybuilding Federation contract is it wasn't a wrestling company. He still had some non-compete or some dates, something left on his WCW contract. I don't exactly remember the total amount, but that's why he was a Super Brawl 2, did the job for Sting, and you can check out my review of that if you'd like. And he was staying out for a bit. Then he had the motorcycle accident, had the metal plate in his forearm, and that halted his growth. And also the World Bodybuilding Federation was absolute goddamn dog shit. But he would then show up as a narcissist, as Bobby Heenan said. And he would be at the Royal Rumble 93. And that would be made in the USA Lex Luger about 6 months later. Because Vince McMahon thought the Luger could be the new Hulk Hogan. Nope. He just fucking couldn't. He does snap his fingers, and some blonde with enough hair to basically drown an elephant hands him a glass of milk. And he downs the protein on camera. I usually have to pay extra to watch somebody down protein on camera, but that's another story for another day, and always delete your search history. So the Mountie is talking to the Nasty Boys and says he talked to the local PD and talked about serving hard times or whatever. The only one who will be serving is you, Virgil. My God. Oh, you want to talk about stuff that didn't age well. And so then the faces talk about some of what they're going to do in this 8-man tag. And Ray Combs of Family Feud at the time does the ring announcing. And does some badly, Family Feud related stuff. Read up on Ray Combs and find out just how far his star fell after this. It was like a car accident. It was bad financial management and a whole bunch. He was dead like about just over 4 years after this. I think he was like 40, 41 or something like that. It was, I don't know how the guy was personally, but it's just you think about where he was here. He was even at Survivor Series 93, I believe, for the Family Feud thing. And he was at some Survivor Series, because he wasn't at any of the ones after that. And then it's like right after that, like he had the car accident, all that stuff's like right up. It's certainly something. Always manage your finances. If you end up, attain any kind of fame, find a financial manager or find a way to manage stuff properly. So Shawn Michaels has left the building, Heenan says. Monsoon, who cares? Bossman Virgil, Sgt Slaughter, and Jim Duggan took on the Nasty Boys, Repo Man, and the Mountie. It was a filler match. It was filler and I barely know her. And Virgil got a pinfall. Throw all of Mania away because Virgil has 2 victories at WrestleMania. Back to back, by the way, because he beat DiBiase, I believe, by countout or disqualification. I think it was by countout. I remember a lot about Mania 7, but I don't quite remember the result of that. But, yeah, Virgil got a victory. That was really what that was a match they thought was really good to be on Mania. It's also funny, Slaughter was in the main event of the previous WrestleMania, in the main event of SummerSlam, and then like 8 months later, he's here. Just actually about 7 months later, he's in just a multi-man match. So then Shawn Mooney was interviewing Flair and Perfect. Now they're going to show Liz's picture to the world. She's all natural and everything because Flair had Liz before Savage did. It's not possible, but we're just going to roll with that. And the dubbed over Flair theme was just fucking ridiculous. I don't know why they dubbed that over. No idea. Savage got a huge pop before he was Randy Savage, and again, always better than Hulk Hogan, and he took on Ric Flair in a WWE Championship match where Savage jump starts, and Mr. Perfect, it was like a handicap match, because Mr. Perfect kept getting involved. It was intense. Savage kept going after Flair. Flair eventually targeted the knee, beating him down, targeting him with the figure 4. Commentary was delightful. Heenan just losing it whenever Flair was getting beat down, and cheering Flair whenever Savage was getting beat down and everything. Show the pictures, woo! And just doing all that. And the match was fucking terrific. This should have been the main event. I get, in retrospect, because it was Hulk Hogan's last match, I get why they had that be the main event. But it probably would have hurt Hogan's ego to basically be in the middle of the goddamn card. But he should have been, because Savage and Flair should have been that goddamn, or in the goddamn main event spot. 1, it's the title. 2, it was a better story. Even if it wasn't entirely plausible, it was a better story. So Flair does a very obvious blade job where he got fined a bunch of money. I mean, he got fined several times. I think it was like about 10 grand or something like that. Might have been more than that. Perfect kept interfering and handed something off after Savage tried to get at him and loaded punch. Oh my God, Flair's going to get the victory. He did not. Liz comes down and some officials are trying to stop him. Or trying to stop her, rather, including Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon appearing on television. I know he appeared on a couple other shows before this, but he appeared on television as an official. And Mr. The Clown is down. Good old The Clown is down. If you know that quote, you know that quote. But everybody's there. They're trying to stop. And then we get the figure 4 spot. We get an inside cradle. And then roll up holding the tights. 1, 2, 3. Randy Savage gets the victory. And Flair's bleeding like crazy, and then Flair tries to get Liz. Savage starts beating him down and everything. And this would be Liz's last U.S. pay-per-view appearance. There would be the U.K. Rampage show in April or May of '92, and that would be it. Liz and Savage, despite the fact their marriage on camera was good, their marriage off camera, they would be divorced very soon after this. So, the pyro just went like, it just whooshed up, and then we get the pyro above the ring and all that. And then we go back to Flair and Perfect talking about what happened at the match. Heenan had already gone backstage and was yelling about all this. Flair says they've only just begun. And then Savage says he wants the whole Flair package. Well then. And then we get a Mania 8 press conference. We get footage of that. Sid was pissed, so then he goes after Hogan and his friends. Rex, the barbershop, has all the powder over himself, sees the blades that Brutus the Barber Beefcake dropped. That's a really hard name to say, by the way. And saw those scissors and thought, Arn, yeah, I'll do that. So Shawn Mooney is talking to Rick Martel. Rick Martel, of course, was the model, and you would know that, even if you didn't see the giant pin there. Yes, I am a model. Why did he have a giant pin saying that? I've never understood. And I love Rick Martel. I just never understood why they felt the need to say that. Like, spelling it out for people. Shawn Mooney says Tatanka is determined to make this your last stand. Okay, don't worry. That's not the worst. Oh no. Martel says, well, I have reservations about that. I've heard that there may not be a match because I heard Tatanka is still outside scalping tickets. Talk about things that haven't aged all that well. So the Lumpia Indians, I don't remember if that's, how you pronounce that. I apologize. They were around the ring doing their dance, celebratory thing, whatever. Heenan joins commentary again. And as Martel and Tatanka are making their entrances and they're in the ring, they're going to have their match. Heenan says, we're going to come up with a plan and everything. We're going to get back to title or whatever. And Monsoon says, and how many of you will it take to do that? Mr. Perfect was in the ring almost as much as Ric Flair. I'm a broadcast journalist. You're a liar. It's like, I've got this plan. You're a liar. Monsoon just keeps saying you're a liar. But you can say whatever you want, but you're not going to get me upset. He's like, you're all upset. Don't jump. It's a long way down. Put him up. It's one of Monsoon and Heenan's best exchange. God, I miss both of them so much. They were so goddamn good. Anyway, Tatanka took on the model Rick Martel in a match that just didn't... It was like 5 minutes, I think. Heenan mentions about the Indians only have 300 miles to walk to get home. Monsoon's like, what do you mean? Cleveland. Never heard of the Cleveland Indians? Crossbody 1, 2, 3. I mean, it wasn't much to this match. And Tatanka had an undefeated streak that Ludwig Borga ended. If you don't know who Ludwig Borga is, you're better off. If you know who Ludwig Borga is, yes, believe it or not, he ended an undefeated streak. Why? I don't know. So Money Inc. talks about retaining the tag titles, and Natural Disasters say they're going to win, and then they had the match that wasn't very good. We get a count out, and Natural Disasters win, and that was about 8 minutes of my life I'll never get back. So, Beefcake's backstage says, me and Hulk Hogan, we go way back or whatever. We've been to the top, we've been to the bottom. I've seen him down low, and I've seen him up high. All right. Okay, then. Moving on. He says he's the biggest Hulkamaniac or whatever, and Evad, or rather Dave Sullivan, wants to be a Hulkamaniac. That is a fucking deep cut for any wrestling fans, especially WCW fans. But Beefcake will be cheering on Hogan. And then The Rocket Owen Hart, who had the parachute pants at this point that would have helped him throughout his career. Actually, it's good that he got rid of those because, in all honesty, the tights fit him better. The parachute pants were ridiculous. Took on Skinner. The bell rang, roll up, and then the bell rang. It was like 90 seconds. I'm glad that Owen got a win at Mania. I just don't understand why they felt the need to do that. Sid then calls Mean Gene a fat, bald-headed looking oaf. And kind of stumbles over it. Sid was an intelligent guy, and nobody looked that good. Like, people say Luger. Nobody looked that as impressive as Sid did at that time. People say, oh, the Warlord and stuff like that or whatever. No, Sid he had the intensity. He looked like an intimidating son of a bitch. He got in the ring and he could do some impressive stuff, and he had that stare, that just 1,000-yard stare, that vicious stare. It just never quite clicked with him. It's also funny that his 2 WrestleMania main events, those are the only Mania appearances he had in matches. Only Mania appearances he had. And he lost both of them. He lost one via disqualification and one to Undertaker, when he allegedly shit his tights. So, we then get clips of Vince interviewing Hogan. Will this be your last match? Hogan is like, well, regardless, I'm gonna find a way to pull out the victory. But I don't know. I won't know until after the bell. So Sid then yells some more. We get Sid with Harvey Whippleman, who I always feel the need to pressure wash myself whenever Harvey Whippleman's there because he just looks disgusting. He just really does. Taking on Hulk Hogan. This match was terrible. Absolutely. This is one of the worst WrestleMania main events of all time. And I get why they did, and you're not going to get much, even with Sid at this point. Even though Sid looked impressive, he could only go with the right people. Hogan didn't give a shit at this point. They played Hogan's theme throughout the pre-match beatdown. It was fucking ridiculous. Sid, just ground him down for a while. Hogan fired back up, hit the slam. hit the leg drop, but just a 2 count. Why was it a 2 count? Harvey Whippleman had to be brought in. We got a DQ like that. Why in the world would they do that? Nobody kicked out of the Hogan leg drop at this point. And then in WCW, after a while, everybody kicked out of the fucking Hogan leg drop. I think I kicked out of the Hogan leg drop on an episode of Nitro when I was just watching it. But at this time, nobody kicked out of the Hogan leg drop. Now, why did they do that? Oh, it's because Charles Wright, a.k.a. Papa Shango, didn't have the right cue, and the future Godfather missed his cue terribly. And also, they didn't realize, hey, wait a second, maybe we should have the guy go out 30 seconds before he's supposed to do that? Well, why? Because there's a lot of fucking ground to cover. And he missed his cue. They badly timed it. Sid kicks out a leg drop. Papa Shango gets in. Now the DQ's going on. Oh my God, what the hell's going to happen? Ultimate Warrior's music hits. We haven't seen Ultimate Warrior since SummerSlam 91, when Vince McMahon called him a legend in his own mind, which, yes, the Ultimate Warrior certainly is. Fuck the Ultimate Warrior, by the way. I'm glad he's dead. And they did a beatdown thing. I will say Warrior did an impressive sprint. He sure could run to the ring impressively. And he did that and everything, and then they beat up both of them, and then we got the pyro and the celebration and all that stuff and whatever, and that's how WrestleMania 8 went off the air. Now with the championship being defended, Piper and Bret, distant memory. The lasting image was Hogan and Warrior with a weird bob cut, and just all that. No, it's Hogan's last match for a year. Until he ruined WrestleMania 9. Hooray, WrestleMania 9. So yeah, that's it for the golden era of WWE, and then we get the weird new generation flux, or the weird influx of talent for the new generation until Vince realized, hey, I need to actually feature people that are good in the ring. So yeah, it was certainly an interesting WrestleMania. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.